And in all honesty, I think on behalf of the board and everybody who is a part of all of this, you know, thank you for your patience. Thank you for understanding why we did or didn't do the things we did or didn't do. Does that make sense? Okay. So we haven't started recording yet, have we, Jim?
Yes.
We are recording now?
Yes.
So for those of you who are listening, and for those of you here, we're not recording on Fridays anymore. We're recording live, right? We're not live streaming yet, so what we are recording today, we will be publishing this afternoon on Sunday. So it may take us a couple more hours to get that message to you, but hang with us, and slowly but surely I think we're going to get to be a live streaming fellowship, which means you're going to watch it live and in person. Got it? Okay, so good morning everybody. Welcome to the Florence Unitarian Universalist Fellowship. For those who don't know, my name is Sally Wantz. For those who have forgotten, my name is Sally Wantz. So November's theme is called Holding History. And we take a lot of materials we share with you today from the Soul Matters Worship Resource from the Unitarian Universalist Association. So it's a good thing. These last few months we've been holding different themes each month, and this one is Holding History. And speaking of holding history, let us remember we are not the first to inhabit the land where we are today. That distinction goes to the first stewards of this land, the Sayisla Indians. So let us honor with gratitude the land itself and the members of the Sayisla tribe, past, present, and future. So we're going to start like we always do. You're going to stand up, we're going to sing Spirit of Life. It's number 123 in your hymnal, where the words are in the program, I think. Stand as you are able, and let's sing Spirit of Life. Jeff, take it away. We got the Latin music today.
Spirit of life, come to me, stay in my heart, all the surges of passion, blow in the wind, rise in the sea, move in the hand, giving life the shade of justice, roots hold me close, wings set me free, Spirit of life, come to me, come to me.
Wow. I'm looking around and I noticed, you know, sometimes we're creatures of habits. So Mark and what's her name over here with the hat on, they're always sitting off into the corner. Good to see you, Francis.
On the sidelines.
I know what I know. So I asked, are there any guests here today for the first time and you would like to stand and introduce yourself? Now, this young lady's been standing outside waiting to come in for the longest time. Would you like to introduce yourself? I told her maybe we wouldn't ask, but I'm asking.
Hi, well, I'm Sarah, but I go by Renee, and it's really nice to be at your fellowship, and I'm glad to see that there is a Unitarian church here. I've not been to one before, but I've been to all sorts of different kinds of churches, and I really appreciate you guys welcoming me.
Welcome.
Thank you, Renee. Thank you for being here. Anybody else here for the first time? I recognize faces, I just don't know if you're here for the first time. Yes, hi.
Hi, my name is Jody Eaton, and I've been living here on and off for about 8 years, but we live here permanently now. And
Oh, welcome.
so I know Deborah and Catherine, and they invited me to come today.
Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you. So Renee and Betty, I've got two things here for you. What is, this is a book. It's called Windows to the Light, Enhancing Your Spirit with Haiku Meditations. These were gifted to us many years ago, and we still have a supply, so I'd like to have you have that on our grateful appreciation for being here. How you doing, Paula? It's good to see you. So let's take a look at some announcements. At 11:15 today, or shortly around there, Dean Shrock invites you to join him in a dialogue circle. and to deepen your understanding of today's message. Catherine, will you be offering affirmative prayer? You'll probably be back here in the side room. Dean may be in the library. If it's too many people, we may have to do it up front here. In the program, you'll notice we have a deadline for any newsletter submissions, November 8th. The 10th, the fog hike will be going to, where are you going? Fog hike, Sutton Street something.
Willow Street.
Willow Street Dunes.
Also known as the water treatment plant.
Also known as the water treatment plant. That's a great little area, fabulous area. There's also a board meeting on the 10th at 3:30. Will we be live or Zoom?
We will, good question.
That would be nice for us to know. How many on the board here?
Let's be live.
I think it's going to be live. Live at 3:30.
Right here at 3:30.
November 14th, Ruth Miller joins us for her Sunday message and her Natural Abundance class shortly thereafter. And the Soul Matters class for November has moved to November 16th. So you'll see all that in the program. So if you're joining us virtually, remember you can find all of our events and all the links on our website. And we have a message back here from our hospitality chairperson, Zana Robertson. Come on up here, Zana. I bet you want to get people to sign up.
What made you think that?
I don't know, because you have a clipboard.
The clipboard was a giveaway.
The clipboard.
I'm gonna be back here so I can switch this off.
I either have a mask or I'm able to see with my glasses, so I'm really punting this morning. Yeah, do you know how much fun it was to stand at that door this morning and greet everybody?
Yes.
Whoa, it
Yes.
was just awesome. It was so awesome that I want you to do it. So we need greeters, all right? And I'm going to pass around the clipboard, and you're going to sign up because you can see how happy it makes me. And it's just wonderful to be back together. My name and phone number are at the top. When you sign up, please remember when you're supposed to be here. And if there's a problem that you can't, please find a volunteer to do it. And if you can't, then you call me, okay? That's the way it works. But we really want people to start getting involved again in the church and be part of the fun and the welcoming committee, all right?
Yes.
Thank you. And I always thought with the volunteer, I like hospitality.
Hospitality.
Yeah.
She's the hospitality chair. So Jennifer, do you see that sign-up list?
I do.
Good.
Whoa, no pressure.
No pressure. So at this time, I would like to invite Pat Burke to come forward. Pat is the president of the Florence Emergency Cold Weather Shelter. You may know this has been our special offering, and Tuvia, if you could too. This has been our special offering for September and October. And you all were so kind and generous to donate your hard-earned whatevers. And we have collected, how much? $772 that we're going to give to Pat today. And I just want you to know that, you may be the president, you may be the leader of that group, right? But one of the people who really helped found this and get it going was our friend Judy Preisler. Judy passed away a few months ago, and Ron Preisler is here today. We did a nice honoring at the Senior Center for all the hard work that Judy has done, not only with that, but with the work with the memory care, and she's just missed a lot, Miss Judy Preisler. So we asked Pat, would you like to say anything to us? One request, I know you might be looking for people.
I am always.
Come here, come here. Give Pat your undivided attention.
Or else. Good morning, and thank you for your generosity, for your kindness, for your concern about our unsheltered population. We have mainly older people, myself included, who are our volunteers, and it makes it difficult to get people to come out in the dark to help. So anyone who is brave enough to do that would be so greatly appreciated. But there are other things that can be done, such as after we've had guests at the pallet shelters, which is out here on 101 across from Sand Ranch, we need people who will do laundry. We need people who will come in and wipe down the shelters after they've been used. and sweep them out. So these things can be done in the daylight. They can either, you can take laundry home and do it there, which is what I do. When you're at the pallets and helping to wash down the walls and sweep out the floors, it becomes a cooperative effort, lots of laughter, lots of sharing. I have a notebook. I'm not the only one with a clipboard here. And that's all I really have to say, except our just unfathomable, thank you, Sally, gratitude.
You know, if there's a couple of you that would like to go there and spend the night and be with the residents for a few hours, probably two of you, you might know each other. Maybe it's a husband and wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, a couple of buddies. Jennifer and I are starting to learn how to play bridge and cribbage. I mean, these are things you can do while you're at the pallet shelters helping out, okay? Playing some cards and having some fun. So, Pat, thank you for being a part of our life. Thank you.
And thank you. I am so grateful for you in particular, Sally Watts.
Oh, well, thank you, Pat Burke. Thank you. Thank you. So now let's get back to business here. I'm going to invite Raymond to come up. We've got our chalice lighting, and Raymond is going to light our chalice flame. These words come from Katie Romano Griffin, titled Invoking the Past, Present, and Future. As we light our chalice flame, let us enter this space of hope and community. Come, let us enter this space with our sorrows, our joys, our passion and compassion. Come, let us enter this space with the stories of our ancestors, for the strength and wisdom beats in our heart. Come into this space, present to the beloved companions who move beside us. Come into this space, mindful that together we are building a future for our generations. Come into this space and let us worship. Blessed be. I invite Raymond, or not Raymond, Zan is going to come forward. We have a responsive reading. We haven't done responsive reading in months. And you will have a big part. Repeat after me. A day.
A day.
One more time.
A day.
Okay. But now you can repeat it.
Yeah.
And if you want to use that you can use whatever.
I'm so confused.
What's the top?
All right. Song, mask off. All right. Ready?
Are you ready?
Do we
Okay.
do we really? Responsive reading.
Okay, sorry.
It's title a day, and your response after each sentence is.
A day.
Got it? Good.
No, it's not. Just listen. Okay. Just listen. Pay attention.
We have to get back in the swing of things here.
Mama's talking.
More like grandma. Okay, do we really apprehend what a day is? Do we feel it's important? Do we know its capacity?
A day.
It has risen upon us from the great depth of eternity, girt round with wonder, emerging from the womb of darkness, a new creation of life and light, spoken into being by the Word of God.
A day.
In itself, one entire and perfect sphere of space and time filled and emptied of the sun.
A day.
Every past generation is represented in it. It is the flowering of all history.
A day.
And insomuch it is richer and better than all other days which have preceded it.
A day.
You're going to be saying this in your dreams tonight, right? And we have been recreated to new opportunities with new powers.
A day.
Called to its utmost promontory of actual time, this center of all converging life.
Ade.
And it is for today's work we have been endowed. It is for this that we are pressed and surrounded with these facilities.
Ade.
The sum of our entire being is concentrated here, and today is all the time we absolutely have. Celebrate today.
Ade.
Blessed be.
A day. So now we have a hymn. We haven't sung a hymn in forever. So if you rise, Jeff's going to play. You're going to sing number 298, Wake Now My Senses. Let is sing it out and sing it proud. Number 298.
For those of you, if this makes any sense, each verse goes up a half tone.
Okay. How many verses?
We should get anyway.
3.
3 verses. And we may have many, so please take your time and enjoy this process. And then when we're done, she'll introduce our guest speaker today, Dean Shrock. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. This is the time of the service where we share our joys and concerns. And today, my biggest joy is seeing all of you right here in front of me. I know you're smiling behind those masks. I know you're smiling. I've always loved new beginnings, like a new moon, the tiny sliver of silvery light heralding the fullness of a passage of our planet every month. I get a sense of childlike joy since I've been doing this for about 60 years, gazing at the new moon. The person that I was then and the one I am now are united. The illusion of history, of time, is erased. And seeing all of you, I am just grateful that we have rounded a cycle to appear here again. Since history was the subject this month, this was my thought this morning. So to refresh you, if you have a joy or concern and you would like to share, line up around this side. Sally will hand you the microphone and you can drop a shell into the cleansing water, symbolizing being heard by us and the universe. Testing, testing.
Thank you.
So Thursday, I and my husband will be celebrating 39 wonderful years of wedded bliss. We will be doing that by going to the Laughing Crab at 4 o'clock, Jeff?
Yes.
At 4 o'clock, where Jeff Lovejoy will be playing.
Yes.
Laughing Crab is a new gallery in town. They serve wine and little nibbles. They have beautiful artwork. And many of you may remember many years ago, we used to show up wherever Jeff was playing and have a great time. And he's back, and they're back. So if you're into it, come join us on Thursday at 4 o'clock at the Laughing Crab.
On Bay Street.
On Bay Street.
It's next to the Bay Street Grill. So, come on down.
Great.
What time?
4 o'clock.
Thank
4
you.
o'clock, Laughing Crab.
Jim and I had a wonderful trip a week ago down into California. We visited friends. We got to spend a weekend with our grandson and take him to Yosemite. And then we came back and I got my daughter married. So that is a joy that I am glad to have done at this point, because planning a wedding long distance is a hard task. So, thank you.
Drop shell.
Drop shell.
You still have one.
You then come over here.
I have 3 shells for selling. The first one is for my partner, Dave Morrison, who passed on September 1st. And it was hard this week because November 3rd would have been his 85th birthday. But a shell for Dave, please.
Thank you.
I was lucky to have 9.5 wonderful, happy years with him. He's one of the best men I've ever known in my life. The next shell is for Foof. I want to thank this group of people who since June and July, and August, September and October have been there for me with visits and hugs and love and concern and so much good food and just caring. You brought me books and things to read, your emails, your phone calls, just your reaching out. And when I needed help and I called, I could call, and when it was a bad day in my grieving, somebody would come. So food, I'll be 86 this month, and I have lived in 10 states, and I counted up once, in 20-some towns, and in lots of places in those towns. But I have never had a community as compassionate and caring and just there for you when you need you. So the next shell is for food. And then this third shell is for the group of people, and I don't know who you are, but I know there are a lot of you, who have worked so hard to bring us this beautiful new room and home and cope with I heard the Planning Commission was not very helpful. But you've done all of this work, and isn't it lovely to have this new sanctuary? Thank you, all of you who helped to make this happen.
Anyone else?
So I have 3 for myself here. One, Marcia Phillips is again hospitalized after a little setback, and she's being stabilized. So continuing prayers and good intentions and thoughts for her. She's going to make this. It's just kind of a long and winding road at this point, it seems. And a shell for Oliver, her cat. We had a lovely service last week of animal blessings. Thank you, Deborah. And we included a picture of Oliver. Although I visit him twice a day when Marcia's in the hospital, he seems lonely, and the majority of his time is spent on the end of her bed, stationed there, waiting for her return. So the best, just as we thought of all those animals last week, spare another thought for him, a black and white older boy who's just waiting for his mom to come home. The third one, Steve Young. My husband is going in for hernia surgery this Wednesday. Dean was kind enough to make a recording for Steve to listen to before and during the surgery. And Steve has enjoyed good health and hasn't had a surgery since 7th grade. So, I would like all intentions and prayers out to him. He's kind of a stoic guy, you know, a good little soldier, but I can tell underneath he's like, uh-oh. So thank you, thank you. And let's see, one more for all the people we don't know about. Those too shy or those who find it too difficult to share their thoughts and emotions with others. We acknowledge you and affirm your presence in our circle of love and compassion. I'll end with a little quote from David Hawkins. Some of us are reading him right now. Compassion is one of the highest of all the energy attractor patterns. Our capacity to understand, forgive, and accept is directly linked to our personal health. Happily, a loving thought is enormously more powerful than a negative one. Were it not so, there would be no one left to tell the tale. Blessed be. Yes. I'm now going to introduce our speaker for today, Dean Shrock. And I believe you were the speaker, the first speaker, when we tried to reopen a few months ago. So here you are again. Thank you so much. He is our speaker one time every 3 months. He cares about us. He is a doctor of psychology. He has worked in numerous cancer programs in the past. And he knows the whole thing about body, mind, and spirit connection. He really knows. Thank you.
I used to be playing before I come
Thank you, Catherine. It really is nice to be back. And these masks, truly masks, being able to interact in the way and see your beautiful smiles and all. And I'm impressed, and I think I say it almost every time I do speak. I'm impressed with your great, big, beautiful giving hearts. You are just a wonderful group that way, so I'm extra pleased to be able to be back and connect with you again. Thank you. Okay, the topic this month for FOOF was history. And I really thought about that. I'm actually not a big lover of history in some ways. But it made me think about, in my psychology background, about the idea of anybody's personal history and what factors into their particular person or personality behavior. And one of the things I discovered in my study and practice of psychology is that, certainly of course, that whether it's genetics and the way we inherit things, and then they affect who we are, or certainly conditioning, especially in childhood, but authority figures very much teach us how we learn, and then it affects who we are. But a great fascination has been to discover that maybe reincarnation is an even greater factor. And so I want to take a little time today to share with you how I came to that conclusion and why I think it has some practical merit in knowing this. Going back to the 1970s, I was already in my 30s, and I hadn't really given much thought to the ideas life serve a purpose, honest to goodness. So it's fascinating then when and I'm not even sure how I was first introduced to this, but I found myself reading books by Jane Roberts in particular, Seth Speaks, The Nature of Personal Reality, and the idea that you create your own reality. That was all very new to me. And I guess I have to admit to a certain extent that I don't know that I was completely comfortable with all of that, but yet I was fascinated by the thoughts of reincarnation. Seth said that as a form of consciousness, that he had completed his cycles of reincarnating on Earth, and then went on to talk so deeply about the purpose of life and why we're here and so much more. But in the 1970s, nothing compares to having met a man named Ken McCauley, who At that time, had already been an ordained Presbyterian minister. He had a master's degree in education. He had a doctorate degree in some kind of metaphysical studies. He actually taught parapsychology. He had attended more than 1,000 seances in his interest to try to understand, learn about the paranormal. A fascinating man. But what happened was we soon became best friends after I attended his self-improvement program, and even business partners. And eventually we became roommates and spent a number of years together. And most importantly, meditating together daily. Ken was this absolute seeker of truth. And as we would meditate, not only would we get insights that we would share with each other, but at some point, he began to go into a trance-like state and channel. One day I swear I'm going to have a talk about channeling just altogether because it's been such a major factor in my life, and some of you might be extra interested in that. Anyhow, it became so clear right away too that we were told how life was all about learning to love, and then with Ken's background, you know, and being this ordained minister, you know, even Jesus said that everything was based really on two things, and that was the idea of loving God and loving your neighbor as yourself. I thought that was pretty pithy, you know, when you think about all the things Jesus might have said, or at least as it was recorded, that was it. And then as I went on to continue to study and learn, I discovered the idea of near-death experiences, where people who were clinically declared dead, I mean that very seriously with great respect, but the idea, you're dead. And to hear people, even including probably the most prestigious medical journal in the world, The Lancet, talking about near-death experiences and questioning, how can one continue to survive when there's no physical evidence whatsoever of them being alive? And then raising this question about life after death. And so then I ran across Dr. Raymond Moody, a psychiatrist, who truly helped to popularize the idea of life after life. His book, Life After Life, actually has sold more than 15 million copies. That's a lot. So I have to say that this really raised an important question for me. If life serves any purpose at all, why bother if when you die, it's all over? Does that make sense? If life serves the purpose of learning to love, is it reasonable to think that this could be achieved in one lifetime? When I was writing my book, Why Love Heals, and trying to understand why love literally could heal, I ran across a book called Character, Strengths, and Virtues by authors Peterson and Seligman. And after they studied the traditions of the dominant spiritual and philosophic traditions across a great time, they discovered 6 broad core characteristics of virtue: wisdom, courage, humanity, justice, temperance, and transcendence. And as you read this and look more into what all of these virtues entail, they include concepts of kindness, forgiveness, mercy, gratitude, compassion, etc. So I ask again, is it possible to truly learn all of that in one lifetime? I mean, an honest question. So, in looking more closely at the idea of reincarnation, of course, Indian religions such as Buddhism and Hinduism talk about this certainly. And they introduce also the conceptual consideration of karma. So I want to stop and make a comment about this at this time, because the general idea is, well, it's truly like the idea you reap what you sow, it's cause and effect. But too often for people, I believe, they think in terms of good and bad and punishment. I want to make it absolutely clear that that is not the case as I understand this at all, and as I have been taught. It is truly just the opportunity to experience another perspective. So if you came in and you were a scoundrel as such, when you come back, it doesn't mean that you're not going to be punished and then reap what you sow in that regard, and then maybe come back and become this very loving person. You came back because you simply chose. You chose to experience another perspective. Does that follow? Make sense? Okay. So it's truly the concept of balance and infinite expression and discovery of who we are. And then I want to cite something from my book, Doctor's Orders Go Fishing, because I learned about so many really interesting people and their experiences in my just general investigation of what truly makes us happy and healthy. Anyhow, I ran across the work of Dr. Brian Weiss and had the opportunity to hear him speak. And in 1980, he was treating a woman for recurring nightmares and anxiety attacks. And when more conventional methods of therapy were ineffective, tried hypnosis. Under hypnosis, the woman recalled many past life memories, which appeared to be directly linked to her symptoms and led to her cure. Well, this in itself is interesting. What was more astounding was that while this woman was in a trance state during her hypnosis, she began to speak a spiritual wisdom that clearly was not coming from herself. The spiritual master who was channeling this wisdom offered messages on topics such as life after life, our choosing when we are born and when we die, the sure and unerring guidance of the masters, lifetimes measured in lessons learned and tasks fulfilled, not in years, charity, hope, faith, love, doing without expectation of return. And just for those of you who are more science-oriented, Dr. Weiss had no training or preparation for this kind of experience. He claims still to have no scientific explanation for what happened. He graduated Phi Beta Kappa, magna cum laude from Columbia University, received his medical degree from Yale University, was nationally recognized for his research on biological psychiatry, and became chief of psychiatry at the University of Miami. So again, I appreciate how, because of my training and the kind of work I did, but also my fascination with trying to make sense of life and how to make us happier and healthier, to now be introduced in a very serious way to a certain amount of science, or certainly the clinical evidence of someone highly respected. It actually became my own preferred way to do therapy. For those of you who worked with me or are familiar with my work, is I prefer actually to have you learn to go inside and access your own inner wisdom, however you understand that. In psychology, some might be more familiar or comfortable with the term subconscious. But certainly you can think of it, and I tend to honestly think of intuition as really more connecting with your soul. Anyhow, we can go in and, I say, have a dialogue with our symptoms, if that doesn't sound too strange up on the surface. But I look at symptoms, your medical diagnoses and all, as really a benevolent messenger. It's a way of getting your attention that something's out of balance. And now let's look deeper at what really may be underlying those symptoms, or what we need to deal with in order if we're going to heal. So in my own experience personally with Ken and working with Ken and with these master teachers, I learned that Ken and I had actually, according to this resource, been together more than 20 times in different lifetimes. We were part of a similar soul group. And just for fun, just some of the things I remember, I've been what's like the French Sinatra, I've been a puppet, a pirate, a pawn, and a king. Okay, I've been a monk, an innkeeper, an executioner, a painter, a Roman soldier, a leper, a pirate. And this one I thought maybe the question will tell you that I was told I was a contralto. Does anyone know what that is?
A
So
singer.
when you're a little boy, they cut off your testicles to keep your voice high. So it isn't necessarily, everybody was Cleopatra and Napoleon kind of stuff. In fact, what was really interesting is in working with my really good friend Sharon Bauer, who's a wonderful psychic and medium, and I talked about her in length in my book, Why Love Heals. I was always asked to ask questions. They didn't prefer to just give me information. They wanted me to ask questions. So one time I asked very personally about my personal anger. If I could be given information to help me understand and deal with it. And I was told to research it. I was not given an answer except research it. Well, research to them is not research scientifically. Ask your dreams. So that night I asked very sincerely for information about my anger. And this is where I discovered I had been this Roman soldier and given a little more information historically about this person and could see clearly why I was angry. And then in this lifetime, I chose more to experience love and to teach love. Partly in a way we could say to balance that prior experience, but also again, just to experience a very different perspective. And what was extra interesting, there's so many moments like this for me, but told even that I'm still in communication with that lifetime, that person, and we are actually helping each other at this time. Then I want to, am I doing okay for time here? This comes from Conversations with God. I know you know how much I like what Neil Donald Walsh had to say in these wonderful books. But this is where God is talking about reincarnation. Apologize, I'm not just running right across my notes where I said this is going to be. Well, I'll be darned. I apologize for that. Of course, it's because of my Why Love Heals book in the wrong book. Sorry. Okay, but I am quoting from Conversations with God. Man, I'm losing. All right, I'm okay. Skip that. I'm going to jump ahead to Robert Schwartz. Robert Schwartz is someone who's really had a lot of experience, but is quite psychic and has worked doing hypnosis with people for many, many years. And the idea of going inside and trying to figure out what we can do to be happier and healthier, as I tend to say. And anyhow, he wrote a book called Your Soul's Plan, and this is what he had to say, or was told, about pre-birth planning. Our soul chose to leave the non-physical or spiritual realm in order to experience the feelings and emotions that are generated by life in a physical dimension. Sorrow, pain, and fear do not exist in the spiritual, higher vibrational planes. There we only know ourselves as being joy, peace, and love. Unqualified compassion and empathy are our very nature. The experience of contrasting emotions on the physical plane allow us and teaches us to learn and experience more fully who we are, love, by experiencing who we are not, fear. If you were treated with a lack of compassion, you would come to appreciate compassion more deeply. A prisoner of war is going to appreciate freedom more fully. It is the absence of something that teaches its value and meaning. Picture, if you will, a world in which there is only light. If you never experienced darkness, how well would you comprehend and appreciate life? So these pre-birth, pre-scripted life challenges provide us with a deepened understanding of the compassion, empathy, and oneness that we temporarily have screened from our own awareness. Our physical life is the opportunity to apply, test, and enhance this understanding. Then again, for those more scientifically oriented, which pleases me to be able to support this in this way, is the research done by Dr. Ian Stevenson. If you've really looked into this subject, you can't have missed his research at the University of Virginia. And then his colleague went on, Dr. Jim Tucker, and between them they studied over 2,500 cases of children who report memories from past lives. And they have written very seriously, like Stevenson wrote a book called Reincarnation in Biology in 1997. That's more than 2,000 pages of documentation of the idea that we survive life. And then also some of you may be familiar with Dr. Michael Newton, who wrote Journey of Souls and talks about case studies of life between lives. And then, if you can't imagine, you've missed Edgar Casey and what he's managed to say about this over time. One of the most interesting, I have so many interesting experiences with this, though, was Shelley and I were in at a major conference, I forget where it was right now, but it was in California, and it was, we're looking at the idea of self-control, the idea that we can really take a much greater control over our physical functioning and health than most appreciate. And then I just read my book, Doctor's Orders Go Fishing, and I was asked to speak, and along with this idea that how we can take control of our bodies and health, a Japanese yoga master was one of the guest speakers. And I always found it fascinating that he was our guest speaker over lunch. Because while we're eating lunch, he's out there with a pretty good sized skewer, sticking it through his neck like this. And yeah, doing some pretty weird things when you think over lunch and why. Anyhow, so then he holds up a double-edged knife, and he showed you how sharp it was. And he asked two people to come up and squeeze his hand while he squeezes the knife. So you get the idea that he's not faking squeezing the knife. Then, crazy me, he asked for a volunteer to come up and pull the knife through his hand while these guys are squeezing his hand. And I'm sure I'm going to cut him. I have no idea, or I didn't at the time, why I volunteered to do this. Fascinating experience. Trust me when I say, and you might believe, he wasn't even cut in any way whatsoever. And I asked about this too through a Japanese interpreter. You know, what in the world were you, I mean this wrong, but what in the world were you thinking or doing while you did that? How could you control yourself to that extreme? And because I was one with the knife. So it was just a state of what he called pure consciousness where he was able to go beyond it. But the story goes way farther in terms of why I'm telling you this story at all. And that is that following his presentation, and I'm not sure how they heard about me, they came up with this great entourage and bought all kinds of books. Except through the Japanese interpreter, I wasn't even able to talk to them. But it was explained through the interpreter, their soul told them they had to meet us, Shelley and me. Now that was fascinating. But this is where, again, it really tests your logic and reason, and maybe there's something to this. So after that conference, I don't know how much later, longer, I was contacted by the Japanese interpreter and said that Mr. Kawakami, that was his name, wanted to meet with me and talk with me further. And I thought, fine, I thought I'd have to go to San Francisco where the interpreter lived and go do that. No, he wants to come to your home. Now, I'm a practical kind of guy. They're in Japan. And they don't come with just a single person. They come with this group of people. And I just think even in terms of the expense of this, they ended up coming back twice, strictly to meet me. It had nothing to do with going to San Francisco or anything further that way. Because, as they explained, how well we've known each other in other lifetimes. And their soul again had to meet us, wanted to meet us. So I know I really am running out of time now, but I want to be very clear in my clinical experience how when, especially with phobias, almost always it goes back to another lifetime. So if you have a tremendous fear of water or fire or whatever, it's almost always because of experience in another lifetime, for what it's worth. So, when we consider genetics or conditioning as a way of understanding and healing our current life circumstances, perhaps you can see how reincarnation can offer additional insights. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dean. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So we have an opportunity. Jeff has a piece he'd like to play, and it's an opportunity for us to maybe quiet our minds for a few minutes before we conclude our service, take in what we've shared today, some of Dean's message, maybe some of that fabulous responsive reading a day, and just be quiet with yourself as Jeff plays this piece. This is called Trust the Universe, which I think is quite appropriate. And yeah, if those who are near a light switch, if you'd like to turn off that light, we can close your eyes, relax, and listen to this beautiful music from Jeff called Trust the Universe. Turn those lights back on before we all fall asleep. Marcia would like to say something. Marcia Pierce.
Thank you and good morning. I thank you all for being here today. This is my first time back here since I lost my partner 3 weeks ago. And I just want to say thank you so much to all of you who sent me such beautiful cards and letters and lovely things that spoke of your love for me. And I'm so sorry that I can barely see any of you. I cannot hear any of you. These things will change maybe slowly over time, but one day I hope to be able to really say thank you to you all the way you have thanked me. Thank you so much.
We have kept Marcia in our thoughts and prayers for many months. And Colin was a very special man, kind of a gentle giant who sat in the back of the room and did exactly what Marcia told him to do. And we thank Marcia for her many years of providing spiritual guidance and messages at this particular church. And we miss those messages, especially that lovely, lovely accent. So thank you. Okay, that was nice. I asked Tuvia to come forward. We have something new we're going to talk to you about today, our offertory. And Tuvia it's going to speak about principle number 1. I will speak about principle number 2. And we'll ask you to just kind of follow along.
2 offertory baskets and 3 FOOF principles. Principle 1 is for the first basket. In the event of an emergency, oxygen masks will drop down. Place over your face first, then help others. This well-known quote is given because one cannot help another if they are incapacitated themselves. The same would apply to keeping our physical necessities operational so that FOOF can survive and thrive as a physical organization first. Then share all of our giving benefits with the community. We have rent to pay, building maintenance, repair, utilities, and new renovation expenses. All organizations that physically meet have these financial responsibilities.
So principle number 2 is the second part of the basket, and that is helping and supporting community interest is a way of life and ingrained in our principles. Each year, community partners are selected by the congregation to be focused for a 2-month period. We just finished with the Florence Emergency Cold Weather Shelter, and now we move into KXCR Community Radio for November and December. At that time, and now, we educate on the significance and importance to quality of life here in Florence to support those in need and/or the environment. We ask for financial donations, volunteer generosity, and sharing of any appropriate material items. As we move forward with our offering today, you'll notice there's 1 basket and 2 places to give. I shall demonstrate. This is the new basket. On this side, you would like to contribute to KXCR, here. Over here, to our fellowship. If you have checks, you can put them in there. If you would like to donate, put it in an envelope and designate who it's from and what's it for, we have envelopes and pens. Okay? KXCR, FOOF. Yeah.
What if we get them mixed up?
Some people are just so blessed. So I'm going to ask Catherine on this side, if you would, and maybe Gary on this side, if you'll help pass the basket back and forth. And let's see, we have a reading we do that we would like to repeat after me, please. Divine love through me.
Divine love through me.
Blesses and multiplies all that I am.
Blesses and multiplies all that I am.
All that I give.
All that I give.
And all that I receive.
And all that I receive.
I am prosperous now.
I am prosperous now.
Blessed be.
Blessed be.
So Jeff's going to play a little music. We're going to pass the basket, and then we'll meet back up front. Don't go away.
She tried. throughout the whole basket. Yeah, I think it was great.
Okay, first time.
Well, the basket seems like it's just colorful inside out. Bright red, bright colors. You know, there's paint inside. It's like a green one on the silver.
We thank you for your spiritual practice of giving. Your contributions are received in grateful appreciation. Two of you's got closing words on this particular thought, on principle 3.
Before I go to principle 3, I just gotta say something. When we announced KXCR, everybody was really into it. KXCR is such an important partner. All of our partners are important. So Sally, next week I hope you'll give me a few minutes to say some really special and important things about KXCR, as well as anybody else who might want to speak as well. It's a wonderful, wonderful thing, this community partner program we've got. We have 3 principles. The third principle is for the basket, which is not passed around. After the 2-month priority time has elapsed, we don't want our community partners to be forgotten. Congregants are encouraged to build personal bridges with our past partners, continuing to patronize, volunteer, donate. And here is Pat. I hope that some people, some of us will connect with her and maybe get involved on an ongoing basis. It's important that we hold on to the partners that we've had in the past because they continue to be our partners. By remaining connected, we grow deeper roots into the community. And our community partner program is going to be an important element in FOOF. And FOOF is going to do some great things in the next few months because we are part of an evolving, energetic congregation. All can find meaningful connections, friendships, and purpose through our Community Partners program. So get involved. It's the FOOF way. Thank you.
I invite Raymond. Would you like to come back up and extinguish our chalice? These come from Reverend Wayne B. Arneson. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. These closing words come from Reverend Scott Taylor, titled, Remembering That We Do Not Walk Alone. May we remember that we never walk out into the world alone. We stand on the shoulders of brave and generous ones who have gone before. We walk beside companions ready to catch us when we fall. We hold memories of dear ones in our hearts who keep us connected to our center. May we make this our most important work, to remember that who we are does not end at the edge of our own skin. We have concluded our service, but we're going to do one more thing, and that is to sing our ever-popular peace song. For those who don't know, and for those who need a refresher, if you're inclined, I ask that you gather in a circle around all of the chairs. If you prefer to remain seated and you're in your place, that's fine too. Some of us like to gather in a big circle and feel kind of connected. So if you'll rise, come in a circle or stay where you are. We're going to sing our peace song. The words are on the back of the program. Jeff will lead us in the music, and we are going to sing our peace song. And remember, our dialogue circle will start in about 5 minutes after this. So don't go too far, okay? And are you ready? I'm going to come right up in front of you.
Let there be peace on earth, and let it begin with me. Let there be peace on earth, the peace that